I am delighted to welcome my dear friend, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, as the newest member of the Thunderbird family. Ladies and gentlemen, graduates of the class of 2013, I am honored to present today's commencement speaker, the newly minted Dr. Rabbi Shmuley Boteach.
I don't want SUU to discriminate against short people. Honored faculty, parents, families, above all else, students and graduates, ladies and gentlemen. A rabbi, a cantor, and the president of a synagogue are traveling through Africa when they are suddenly captured by cannibals. And as they're put into a giant pot, being made into a roast for that evening's dinner, the chief cannibal says, "One last wish for each of you before you die." And the rabbi says, "All I want is to give one last speech, just one last oration. It won't last more than 3 or 4 hours, I promise." And the cantor says, "Just one last aria, just one last beautiful melody, 6, 7 hours at most before I die." And the president says, "For the love of God, my request is, kill me first." This high honor that you have conferred upon me today is truly humbling, and it represents a milestone, not just in my own life, but especially in the esteemed friendship that I share with President Michael Benson, a man of unique humility, humanity, grace, and total commitment. And I have promised him, so as not to embarrass him, that I will not go over the 90 minutes allotted to me. When President Benson was a student at Oxford, what most impressed each and every one of us who indeed had never really met a Mormon in our lives was his commitment to his faith. And it is that subject of faith which I would like to share with you today. In just 13 days, the world will commemorate the end of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, where a group of impoverished, decimated, and diseased, starving Jewish fighters, men and women, sought to push back the Nazi onslaught and the greatest rebellion of the Holocaust. And the Israeli writer Tzvi Kulitz tells of the story of Yossele Rackover, a rabbi who, like Billy, had 11 children, but they had all died already and perished in the war. He had one left, and he told his son to raise his head above the parapet to see where the heavy artillery were being brought by the Germans, and his son fell back with a bullet between his eyes, and now Yossele Rackover had lost all. And in the last moments of his life, knowing that his own doom was impending, he picked up a pen and a paper and he wrote what came to be known as the last will and testimony of Yossele Rackover. And in that letter he wrote, "Lord God, I have been stripped of love when I watched my wife die of typhoid. I have been stripped of hope when I watched my last child die before my very eyes. I have been stripped of human dignity, being incarcerated and caged like an animal in this dilapidated, ruined ghetto. But the one thing that you will never take from me, you will never take my faith in you. You have done everything in your power to try to get me to cease believing in you, but I die as I have lived. I believe that there is a God who created me, and I believe that I have been endowed with a special gift to share with humanity regardless of how much others have sought to strip me of that gift. I die as I have lived, a believing Jew. My friends, as you graduate today, you must know that leaving the confines of the comforts of academia, that the world will seek to strip you of the single most important belief that you must always hold on to. It will seek to strip you of that one article of faith without which you cannot live. It will seek to strip you of the belief that you are special, that you are unique, that there is none like you, that you have a gift to share with the world that has never preceded you and will never be replaced by any other than you. That if you squander your life comparing your gift to others, if you always live competitively, then you will have squandered your potential to make the world a richer place. There is room for competition. There's room for competition in making money. For goodness sake, there's room for competition in sports. And Billy, don't make me take you onto that golf course today to show you who's really boss. They don't call me Rabbi Hole-in-Wall Shmuley for nothing. I'm not here to strip you of your own dignity on the day that you get this honorary degree, Billy, so don't force me to. There is room for competition in life, my friends, but only in what you do and never in who and what you are. You must never allow that competitiveness to breach your soul. But as you live life, you will discover that you will do favors for people and they will forget you. Joseph saves the life of Pharaoh's butler in interpreting his dream so favorably, and it immediately says, and the butler forgot Joseph and he refused to remember him. Sometimes no good deed will go unpunished. To the majority of the women who are graduating today, brilliant women using their minds to succeed and accomplish, you will sometimes give your heart to a man who appears to be a gallant knight in shining armor, and he will restore it to you in tiny shattered pieces. You will, God willing, grow to be parents, and sometimes your kids will only pick up the phone from university to treat you like you're an ATM. Not that any of the parents here know what I'm talking about, of course. Like the famous story of the woman who on her son's graduation day is so proud of him, she makes him put on his cap and his gown, and she says to her husband, put your arm around Junior. Junior, make it look natural. Put your arm around your dad. And the father says, if you want it to look really natural, just tell Junior to put his hand back in my pocket. You will at times feel like you are a commodity. And at that moment, you must remember that do not allow the world to pry from you the certainty, the faith, and the conviction that you are special. That you may not see your name on the Forbes 400 list. And if you're a woman, you may not always see your picture on the cover of Vogue. But it makes no difference because you are unique and you are special. And the world gains control over you whenever it makes you feel like you're not special. They make you feel at work that if you don't work harder and ignore your family, that you remain someone undistinguished. I don't want to give another corrosive commencement speech before a group of graduates that makes it sound like unless you go out there and succeed, unless you go out there and follow all the rules that we hear so commonly in commencement speeches, love your work, follow your passion, work hard, be disciplined, but all of them are based on the idea that you're a nobody who might just be lucky enough to become a somebody. And do you believe that even if you achieve all that money and fame, that you're going to somehow internalize any kind of self-esteem? You didn't come to this university to gain the tools by which to succeed. You came to this university because you were born with an infinite gift. You were endowed with an indelible contribution, and your faculty gave you the tools by which to contribute that gift. You have nothing to prove. President Benson is a man who has always been in love with the Holy Land, with the Promised Land. He named one of his children Truman after the president who recognized the state of Israel in 1948. He wrote his doctoral thesis about that recognition. And there are two kinds of Promised Land. There's a Promised Land of hills and valleys, and there's a Promised Land of soul and spirit. Your Promised Land is the place where your gift is acknowledged and appreciated. When Moses first sends the Israelite spies to conquer the Promised Land, they come back and they famously say it's unconquerable. And listen to their words, what the Bible says in the book of Numbers. They say to Moses, "We saw giants there, and in our eyes we were like cockroaches, and so we appeared to them." They looked at people who were giants, people who had more money, who were more distinguished, and they felt like they were minuscule. They felt that they were like locusts. They weren't ready to conquer any land. They couldn't find a promised land. But contrast that with a black man who 45 years ago last month got on a plane from Atlanta to Memphis. And he had to get off that plane because there was a bomb scare, some assassin trying to blow him to smithereens, but he got back on the plane to go to a strike for garbage workers, sanitation workers, who just to have a little bit of dignity had to wear a sign that said, "I am a man." And that night he had laryngitis, and he sent his best friend to give a speech to thousands of people in Mason Temple who were waiting to hear him. But Ralph Abernathy called him and said, "Martin, there's going to be a riot if you don't turn up." So with no notes and utterly unprepared, he went before those people, and there was a torrent and a hurricane outside. And the rain was so loud that it almost drowned out his words. And yet he belted forth one of the most memorable speeches of all time that night. It's called the Mountaintop Speech. And on April 3rd, 1968, Martin Luther King said that he had seen the Promised Land. And he said, "Tonight I am fearing no man. Longevity has its place, but I am happy tonight because the Lord has taken me over the mountain and I have seen the Promised Land. And I may not get there with you, but you as a people will get to the Promised Land." And as I sit sometimes and shiver and shudder listening to his immortal words, I ask myself, why wasn't he afraid? So many white racists wanted to kill him, and he would be dead 20 hours later, felled by an assassin's bullet on the patio of a third-rate motel. But you know why he wasn't afraid? Because the mother of all human fears, what undergirds and underlies every fear, is just one: the fear that we don't matter. The fear that we are not special but ordinary. That's why men fear failure. It proves that all along you never had the goods. It's the reason why women fear rejection. It proves that you were never lovable to begin with. It's the reason we all fear death. All these people who tell you they cannot live without you, God forbid were you to exit the planet, guess what? The earth would continue to spin on its axis. And the people who said they couldn't live without you will somehow muster on. But Martin Luther King wasn't afraid because he had no fear that he was ordinary. No racist could make him feel like he didn't have a gift. He had caused little black children to march before Bull Connor's dogs. He had caused little black children to march in Selma in front of those fire hoses. He had bestowed dignity on others, and he had found his gift. And when you know your gift, you become indestructible. And 7 days after he died, Ralph Abernathy put up a slab right outside the motel, and was a verse from Genesis about Joseph, and it says, "Behold, here cometh the dreamer. Come, let us slay him, and let us see what shall become of his dreams." Today you will go forth and prosper, and we will see what shall become of your dreams, of your unique gift, and your unique ability to bestow dignity on others so that no one feels like they don't matter. I was walking with my children through Jackson Square in New Orleans weeks before Katrina, and there was a man sitting in the corner, and he had a paper bag with a can in it. And he said, "Brother, can you spare some change?" And I put $1 in his hand, and I said to him, "You're too special to buy alcohol with this, Tell me you'll do something good with it. And he said, I promise I will. And I said to him, God bless you, sir. And he said, God bless you too, sir. And I walked on. And my eldest child looked at me and she said to me, Tati, are you really that foolish? Do you not know that he will just go out and buy another beer? And I said, baby girl, do you think that I'm some great philanthropist giving a man $1? Do you think I'm going to change his life with $1? I gave him $1 because it was the best deal I did the whole day. For $1, I made that man feel like I saw him, that he made an impression on me, that we can't always be guilty of what Bob Dylan says. And how many times does a man close his eyes and pretend that he just doesn't see? That the reason he is sitting there wallowing away his pain in alcohol is because he feels he has nothing to contribute. He has no gift. He's been stripped of all dignity, and I dare not walk by him and pretend that I don't see him. There was a Mormon missionary. He was in those, I wasn't going to tell this story, but having seen 2 pictures of him in the video montage, one of our dearest friends, Brock Oakes, Mike introduced me to him 20 years ago. And he came and he gave me a Book of Mormon, and he said, do you have one? I said, no. He said, would you like one? I said, how much does it cost? He said, it's free. I said, I'll take 2. And I said to him, Brock, you need to understand, if I convert to Mormonism, I am paid to be a Jew. I'm going to be unemployed. So unless you have a better financial offer. But I said, but I'll tell you what, I know there's many people who don't appreciate you being here in Oxford, a world-class university. You're a religious missionary. When they mistreat you, you come and see me. And he started visiting me every single day and became one of my closest friends. 2 years later, he said he had to go home. And where are you going, Brock? I'm going to the Air Force Academy. But why? Well, my father is the commander-in-chief of NATO air forces in Europe. You mean all along these people who spit on you and kicked you and abused you, you could have ordered an airstrike? But you know what I remember about that Mormon missionary? I remember that no matter how much abuse he took, and he took a lot, Oxford was a really tough town, he never allowed anyone to pry him of the faith that he had something to contribute. Never. Contrast that with a Jewish student who called me on a Sunday afternoon at 5 o'clock. I have to see you immediately. But why? He said, it's an emergency. He walks into my office and he says to me, my father's not Jewish, my mother is. I've discovered that you Jews claim me as a Jew, even though I wasn't even raised Jewish. I said, speak to your mother. I had nothing to do with this. He said, I am not leaving your office until you excommunicate me. I said, excommunicate you? No Jew has been excommunicated since the great philosopher Spinoza in 1656. He said, but I'm not going to leave. I said, look, Sunday afternoon and it's late. We rabbis charge $100 for circumcisions. We charge $200 for bar mitzvahs. We charge $300 for weddings and $400 for excommunications. He said, why so steep? I said, it costs more to get out than it does to get in. He then said to me, do you have a student discount? I told him, forget it. That'll open the floodgates tomorrow. Every Jewish student's going to want to be excommunicated. I typed out a certificate and I said, I, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, hereby excommunicate you and your progeny from the Jewish people for now and evermore. Gave him this worthless piece of paper. And as he walked out, I said, I didn't even charge you in the end, so you have to answer the one question. And he turned around and he said, I know the question. Why? Why don't I want to be a Jew? I said, yes, why? And he said, I study history at this university, and I have studied how the Greeks philosophized, how the Romans ruled, and how Genghis Khan's hordes conquered, and how the Jews died and died and died. And I knew I would never see him again, and I never did. And this was my only chance to leave an impression on the students. So I said to him, you are correct. You have studied about how the Greeks philosophized and the Romans ruled and how Genghis Khan's hordes conquered and how the Jews died. But you read about the Romans and the Greeks. When it came to meeting a Jew, you picked up the phone. because I'm still here, because no one can strip me of my dignity, because no one can make me feel like I don't matter, because all the hatred in the world will never be internalized, because I know that God placed me on this earth for a purpose, and you have stripped yourself of your dignity based on other people's rejection, and that we dare never do. So as I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, on this august milestone in your lives, I bless you that as the Lubavitcher Rebbe blessed me in that picture that you saw, when I was a boy who was crushed by his parents' divorce and felt worthless and felt like I had no dignity, that the two people who brought me into this world didn't want to talk to each other. Maybe I was a mistake. And this rabbi looked in my eyes, and I saw in his eyes an infinite sea of kindness, and he said to me, "You are too young to be a cynic, for you will grow to be a source of joy, inspiration, pride, and light to your family, your school, and the entire world. May each and every one of you grow to be a source of joy, inspiration, pride, and light to your parents, to this incredible school, Southern Utah University, and indeed to the entire world."